they're trying to pretend to the American public that they do not need to be aware or alert or concerned in any way with Islamic immigration or the Islamic community you have. It's the biggest threat to Western civilization, not the Jews. It's like, well, the Jews didn't make the Muslims rape their way through Town or rape their way through Britain or rape their way through Europe. And in fact, Israel was formed in 1948. If we take before 1948 out the equation and go back through history, there's been a jihad going on for 1400 years. You can't blame Israel and the Jews on that.
Let me ask you this question, because I think this would be great from your point of view on things. In America, one of the pushbacks to Islam at this point is that people who are continuing to criticize Islam, that is more of a what they call a distraction from Israel's influence in American politics, and that Jews are still trying to run these campaigns to essentially program the American people to hate Islam over Israel. What is your thoughts about that overall?
It's incredibly frustrating because all those commentators on the American right don't actually have any idea what they're talking about, if I'm totally honest. They've lived in America. They haven't been plagued by Islamic rape gangs, hostility, violence, jihad, terrorism. They haven't been plagued. For example, I'm born in Luton Town. When I was born in 1982, there was one mosque. There's now 45. I know what I'm talking about. Okay. So this attempt to bring Muslims and Christians together, and it's the Jews who are making us all hate each other. It's like, well, the Jews didn't make the Muslims rape their way through Town or rape their way through Britain or rape their way through Europe. And in fact, Israel was formed in 1948. If we take before 1948 out the equation and go back through history, there's been a jihad going on for 1400 years. You can't blame Israel and the Jews on that. So all this new trying to rewrite history, which we're seeing happening, that somehow it's everyone who's talking badly against Islam is being paid to, it's a very well orchestrated propaganda battle coming out of Iran, coming out of Qatar. Even now, you've just seen with Maduro being arrested. The protests on the streets in New York the next day with the banners, with the placards, that are the same color, the same branding as the previous demonstrations in support of Hamas. We have proxy armies in the United States, proxy armies coming out of universities. We have the money coming in from Qatar. We have, when they talk about Israel trying to define the next generation, what are you talking about? Like, from my point of view, I've grown up in Great Britain. We get it. Come and speak to some working class Brits and ask them about Islam. They'll tell you. You see what you're happening now in Minnesota? We'll put that on an international, on a national global scale for the whole of America. Once you've got a community like that embedded in every one of your cities, you're going to see crime statistics, rape statistics, hostility, non-assimilation, non-integration. You're going to see all these things. You can't continue to just blame the Jews. It's pretty boring. Yeah. It's pretty boring. I actually find it frustrating. Because when they're saying we need this Muslim-Christian alliance, what Muslim-Christian alliance? When has there ever been a Muslim-Christian alliance? Islam has never peacefully coexisted, ever in history. 45 countries have been turned to civil conflict where Muslims started as a minority and then become a majority. And when they become a majority, there's no minority rights for us, guys. And for the Christians spreading this in the United States of America, go speak to the Christians in Afghanistan. Go speak to the Christians in Pakistan. Speak to the Christians in Lebanon, in Syria. Go and speak to your own Christians and ask them what it's like. They're not going to tell you the Jews are really bad in Afghanistan. It's like, come on. I actually find it shocking. And do you know what's the only benefit I see from this is all those commentators who are coming out on the side of Iran or the side of Hamas or the side of the Islamic states in any way. Those ones, it's not going to age well for them. Okay? Every video I've done, you can put up videos from me 15 years ago where I was telling the British public exactly what's going to happen, not because I'm a genius, just because I understood Islam. I'm born in Luton and I've become a minority. So I know what's going to happen in your towns and cities because Luton's a blueprint for every town and city. So I know all of my videos and all of my warnings have aged very well. So all those sitting there now in the United States of America talking about Muslim-Christian alliance, we're all friends, they're turning us against each other. Well, when you have jihad after jihad after jihad after jihad, rape after rape after rape, murder after murder, which you're going to have, because Joe Biden opened your borders, not to South Americans, to Pakistanis, Afghanis, Syrians, Iraqis. The new immigration you've had over the last 8 years is going to shock the United States of America. You've got no idea what you've brought in. No idea. So I used to watch the discussions. So I find it frustrating, that's the honest message to everybody, because they're trying to pretend to the American public that they do not need to be aware or alert or concerned in any way with Islamic immigration or the Islamic community you have. It's the biggest threat to Western civilization, not the Jews. So yeah, that's my.
I see. This is the thing that I could definitely empathize with you on, which is I think blaming Jews is very lazy. I think it's low IQ. I think people should be more clear about what they're saying, backed up by actual evidence. Now, myself personally, I've been to Afghanistan. I'm very well aware of how crazy Islam can be. So I guess one of the things I want to ask you, because you've been around the world, what do you think is the big lesson Americans need to learn, and we need to learn it quick, given what you've seen, particularly in London and your home country?
You need to stop thinking that they think like you. You need to stop viewing another community the way you'd view it. You need to stop thinking like a Christian. So, for example, when we see a young 12-year-old girl or a child on their own, we see someone that's vulnerable that needs protecting. A Muslim doesn't see it like that. They see a target that deserves, depending on how they're dressed, deserves the hostility, violence, or rape. And I don't mean every single Muslim. Yeah, of course I don't, because not everyone thinks the same. But what I'm saying is Muslims in the UK make up 6% of the UK population, they say. Now, that means 3% of the UK population is Muslim men. 90% of convictions for groups of men that rape children, that's groups, more than two, in paedophile gangs, 90% of the convictions are Muslim men. So from 3%, they're responsible for 90% of the convictions. 30% of the men convicted are called Mohammed. Now, in 2003, we had 8,800 rapes in Great Britain. In 2023, we had 8,800. We can't, and what we're seeing now, which is, I believe, being imported into our country from the United States, is a form of ethno-nationalism that tells people that only whites can remain. And we're starting to hear this now in the UK. And it's incredibly frustrating for someone like me. Reason being, I'm from Luton Town, where Luton is every culture and every community. So I've grown up in a town where if you line up my 30 best friends, St. Lucian, Bulgarian, Italian, Irish, Jamaican, we are all Nigerian, we are all sons of immigrants, or many of us are sons of immigrants. We're all like this. We're brothers. When you separate the town in Luton, it's divided by religious lines, not racial lines. So I don't want to see that race politics imported into my country like I saw with Black Lives Matter when it comes to the UK, because we don't have that. We haven't had that. But that divide, which has been pushed, many of them by Marxist groups, to push this divide, was then imported into the UK. So I'd say to Americans, I've experienced it. You're mixing oil and water. When you bring Islam in, and there's no way your leaders didn't know this. There's no way our leaders, there's no way the United Nations, governments don't know this. You're mixing. The European Court of Human Rights in 2007 found that Sharia law is incompatible with Western democracy and freedom due to their views on women's, homosexuals, free speech. In Luton, my hometown, 2013, I've done the figures for the growth forecast. By 2030, so a 17-year period, the Pakistani and Bangladeshi community were going to increase by 70 to 77%. The white and black community by 1.2 to 1.4. So the local Labour Party in my country, your Democratic Party, who control my town through the Muslim vote, not through our vote, we as white English working class, we're irrelevant. We're only going to increase by 1.2%. The blacks, you're irrelevant, 1.4%. What is the future for the Labour Party in this town? 77% increase is the Pakistanis and the Bangladeshis. Now, that vote play, and as you've seen now, when you're seeing the crime that's come out of the Somali community, everyone's scratching their head saying, how could this be allowed to happen at this scale? What you will find in the United States of America is what we've found, is there's different laws and different rules for each community. When the Islamic community, because all the politicians really care about is power and keeping power, and they don't care what it costs. For example, an entire generation of British daughters were sacrificed to the Islamic community to be raped, pillaged and killed. And I know this may sound, if you're just hearing this for the first time, we had a little town called Rotherham, 1,400 children were raped in Rotherham, small town. 3.7% Muslim population. We had a town where I've done a 5-part series of documentaries called The Rape of Britain, called Telford. Now in Telford, there's only a 1.7% Muslim population. In Telford, 1,000 children were raped, either dead. 200 men were identified by the police in their investigations for the rapes. So for a 30-year period, this gang of over 200 were allowed to rape, pillage and murder. Out of the 200, police only prosecuted 11. Now, when you take out the youngsters and the elders and the women, there's only 1,000 Muslim men in town. So out of 1,000 Muslim men, 20% of them were identified by the police as being involved in raping a generation of daughters. Police knew in Telford, they knew in Bradford, they knew in Oldham. Now, when I started my activism in 2009, I warned about all this, spoke about all this. Everyone said I was lying. Now we fast forward to where we are now. It's a common fact. There's been government reports. Every report into every city has found exactly the same. The police knew, the government knew, the council knew. Everyone knew it was happening, but they were too scared to tackle it because they didn't want to be deemed as racist. So that's the power of political correctness. The special exemptions given to the Islamic community And I think many, like, you have different levels of, I'd say, appeasement. So many in America, and especially black community, the way the Democratic Party always try to keep you there. Well, they're not going to be that bothered in many of these towns and cities because the organised votes coming from the Islamic community. And then again, you're going to be targeting the prison system to convert. There's going to be mass conversions coming from each community, which needs to be tackled now. My biggest warning to America is get a grip of your prison system because they're building an army in ours. The last prison I was in was 40% Muslim population. 6% of my country is Muslim, 40% in the prison. That's all the major prisons. They've took over the prison system. Our prison system is a ISIS training camp. And I'm sure yours is the same. I'm sure it's being used in the same way. So, yeah, lots of warnings I'd give America.